Hi everyone. This is my inventory management presentation in the restaurant industry for our MBA class 5660 Operations Management by me, Zane Robbins. Inventory management is the planning and controlling of inventories to meet the competitive priorities of the organization. An important concern for managers and all types of businesses. Inventory management is focused on satisfying the demand, which is essential for realizing full potential of any supply chain. You need to meet the demand of the customers, but also not take up too much space with stock. Restaurants must sell the perishable items that need to be turned over quickly before they spoil, which in result has most restaurant companies use a first in, first out method to use the produce that is put quickest in stock. On the slide here, we can see the 5 benefits of inventory management. Keeps track of your inventory and offers a centralized view of stock. Controls your cost. It can also improve your delivery by managing stockouts and meeting customer expectations. It manages planning and forecasting by analyzing data trends. And lastly, reduces the time for managing inventory by keeping records in place. Inventory management. In previous times, and even in some restaurants found today in the restaurant industry, inventory management was done using spreadsheets and manual counting. Tracking purchases with receipts and analyzing the data in front of you, and then ordering products each week that would come on to weekly deliveries the way the system used to work for all restaurants before the technological advances came along that we have today. It helps ease the process for companies and restaurants. It can show important financial and performance data and reorder stock when it reaches a certain level, depending on the software that you buy. On the slide, we can see several benefits can be gained from effective inventory management, like the previous picture we had up. Cost savings, increased sales, improved customer service, increased efficiency, and also the reduction of risk are all factors of this. Inventory management. Planning ahead. One aspect that restaurants can help themselves with is planning ahead and predicting for future events, such as seasonal promotions and seasonal foods that they plan on selling. This is known as anticipation inventory, which can be defined as inventory used to absorb uneven rates of demand or supply, which businesses often face. Our first example we have is Chipotle. Chipotle announced it's testing radio frequency identification, also known as RFID, which is a technology to enhance its traceability and inventory systems which would be used in its Chicago distribution center. It's a new era of technology, has been a game changer for restaurants and the industry, and year after year we're coming up with more efficient ways of completing tasks and creating less of a burden on ourselves and our businesses. It's saving suppliers time on inventory management and stock rotation. It mitigates human error and an increase in expiration date visibility and accountability. Our mom and pop setup. Before we had the software that we do and the technology, old school of pen and paper and tracking manually the items that we have. Some today would still prefer to go about their business the old-fashioned way and do it through charting and counting, which, like I previously said, is how things were done before some of the technological advances in software that companies are currently using. Expected sales and lead time and safety stock, which is very limited for the restaurant business. You can see what is very likely to be reordered by priority, and which priority is based on the days until you are going to run out, which is something that, as much as smaller shops want to stay away from, some form of variation of the software is probably something they need to adapt to, such as an Excel setup, in order for them to stay in the game and not have as many of those flaws, such as human error and aspects such as that. Besides just food being part of the inventory management, restaurants also must worry about aspects such as dry goods, spices, liquor, beverages, cooking equipment, linens, and also items such as workers' uniforms. To be the most efficient, it would be suggested for most restaurants to track inventory not just in a food aspect, but also in different categories such as food, beverages, and non-food. Food costs are usually generally around 30% of total cost for a restaurant, which increases drastically when food is wasted. Being able to track their food and purchases more closely, allowing them to better manage purchases and payments to vendors. Software, like I said, is a pretty penny, but it also has a lot of benefits to come from it. It's all about finding the sweet spot. You need enough inventory so your customers can always buy their favorite menu items, but not so much that too much product spoils or expires and you're wasting the product. Having enough inventory to drive sales without minimizing waste will improve your net profit, or the amount of money left over after all the expenses and taxes. We can see on the screen the example of what this might look like. As you can see at the top, simple software for an example of what a restaurant might look like. Different products, different produce, having it labeled in this kind of style, rather than marking it down with pen and paper. Using a simple software such as this breaks it down by code, where it's supposed to go to, amount, packing number, the size, packing price, the last price updated, the recipe unit cost. It breaks everything down for you and takes all the hassle out of it. McDonald's is viewed as having one of the most successful supply chains across the board for both the restaurant industry, but not so much on the inventory management aspect. McDonald's faces challenges when it comes to inventory management. Their challenges consist in demanding forecasting so the products are not thrown away, as well as controlling the raw materials that they need. Because they know they're not good on the inventory management aspect, they try to counterbalance it by being upfront with it and doing what they can to counterbalance it. They do this by having efficient communication and implementing inventory management systems like most companies in the restaurant industry tend to do. On a daily basis, the regional planner discusses with roughly 100 restaurants to get updates and be up to date on all issues. Stock control system and their business model to make sure they had constant availability of raw materials. The regional planners analyze the past performance and work on future sales campaigns, thus predicting the future demand. They use stock control charts of their inventory management system to display the product sales history and generate forecasts for each restaurant. Using anticipation inventory as a big factor. for how they run their business. We have Subway. Many franchises in the North American Subway network once shared the pain of time-consuming weekly inventory. The manual procedure was even more onerous when frequent discrepancies arose between stock, orders, and invoices that required troubleshooting and reconciliation. It transformed a several-hour weekly ordeal into a more accurate automated system that now only took minutes. The adoption of global trade item numbers, as well as sharing master data via the Global Data Synchronization Network. The vast network of suppliers, distributors, and restaurants were poised to communicate seamlessly over a platform using the global language of business, which was deemed a much better fit for Subway compared to what they were. The way they did this was barcodes that have the date and information encoded, help the distribution centers be more accurate and efficient in their stock rotation by avoiding expired or short shelf life of product deliveries, which were costly. This allows proper food handling on all fronts. As a result of the switch, it has driven tens of millions of dollars in cost avoidance due to labor efficiencies and has maximized savings by reducing waste, minimizing shrinkage, and having and ordering the correct size of inventory. The leaders at Independent Purchasing Cooperative, IPC, were aware of the pitfalls and bottlenecks. Some owners might only count high-value products, for instance, which could result in food costs varying significantly week-to-week aspects. Excuse me. For our conclusion, there are no exact answers in terms of what works best for each company. We've seen a variety of restaurants found throughout the restaurant industry, but not any are the same in terms of how they do business, especially in terms of how they do inventory management. Each takes their own unique approach in order that they deem most appropriate for them, whether it is their best factor or their worst factor. Others paid the hefty price, so that way other means of technology can take care of it for them and hopefully pay them back in the long run by investing in such a high-tech piece of software. The paper and pencil style and what restaurants must do are on the lower end and do not have the means to spend money on something like that and care more about keeping it low-tech and keeping more money in their pocket rather than take a gamble and investing in this kind of new technology is also a path we have seen. I believe inventory management is possibly the most important factor if it is not taken care of for a business because of the fact that it is something that can quickly destroy and quickly empty the pockets of a business if it is something they do not do right and have control of. Almost immediately the restaurant business takes off. It can make a mess of things if you worry about everything else, like I said, and push it off and just try to go through it half-ass and go about it week to week. Something that, like I said, can quickly empty your pockets. Getting rid of products on a quickly basis and having to buy new ones to replace them. All things that can be a result of this. You should be able to get it to run as smooth as ice at one point, whatever way you choose is the correct way. And then a successful inventory management system will keep you in the game longer and allow your restaurant to have a longer lifespan. Thank you.